Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours,
Wrestle Talk Podcast family, it is that time once again. This is yours truly, the young lion with the old soul, the Warriors Heart champion, Gabriel Arcine, coming to you for another Wrestle-filled Talk Podcast here, episode in the Wrestle Talk Podcast on our road to episode 500. We plan to bring you all the latest news here in the world of professional wrestling, and we're set to hear with our guest in our second hour, New Mexico-based radio personality and fellow wrestling junkie Fred Slow. Ceased to join us in our second hour, but right now it's just me and the Night Owl holding it down in the world of professional wrestling. A lot to talk about, a lot of wrestling. We will be joined here with one Luke Roberts, Mr. Skywalker himself, and Hardcore Host in just a moment. It's just that world of, in show business here in the world of wrestling right now in the Wrestle Talk Podcast, but it's no problem. I'm enough to carry it for right now until I can be joined by my co-host, but a lot to go by here in the Wrestle Talk Podcast. It's nice to hear from everybody. Susie Haas in the comments section. Let's see. Okay. And just before we head out into this right now, folks, we're going to be sure to thank our fantastic sponsors here in the Wrestle Talk Podcast. As always, our great sponsors, Royal Mills Transportation, head by one Mr. CEO DeJuan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge in Kansas City, Missouri, Kincaid Arcade at Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, that's where you can pick up your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler, and of course, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. Be sure to check all those out. They're the reason we do what we do here in the Wrestle Talk Podcast. I keep saying FWWC by mistake. Pardon me. But without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here today. Shout out to Herb Simmons in the comments. Always a pleasure to see you, bud. We love to see the support from our fans. Be sure to share this our podcast out there, folks. We're always looking for new fans. We want to hear your voices in the comments section of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. We're always looking for new people to show up on the show, share their thoughts, and share, more importantly, their passion here, because that's what we got a lot here in the Wrestle Talk Podcast, whether it's the comments from the fans, whether it's the people running the boards, whether it's the people like me who stand up, try to hold it down for everybody who gets everything. But with that being said, we got a lot of wrestling to talk here tonight. So I will be joined here very shortly, but we have a lot to talk here in the world of wrestling. We got high spots, as I said. We're going to be joined here today with our guest Fred Slow, Don McGuire. When will Stephen E be back on? Please, sooner rather than later. If we can hook that up, Night Owl, please. I enjoyed thoroughly speaking to Stephen E. Fantastic guest here, but we got a lot to talk here. Don McGuire, thank you for commenting. We love to see it, and as always, it's good to see you here, Hardcore Hoss.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How'd you think I did on my opening there on a scale of 1 to 5?
From what I saw, you did absolutely perfect on your intro there. I was trying to get set up. I've been having some technical issues tonight, which is not a good thing. But
happens to the best of us.
We work at it, we overcome, but
absolutely.
From what I saw of it, it was a great intro. Sorry I'm late. Sorry to leave you hanging by yourself.
Fashionably led, Hardcore Hoss. I'm just glad to see you. And like Night Owl says here, you're looking really clear today. You're kind of glowing a bit. Did you switch up the camera?
Well, I'm having to use my cell phone where I normally use the camera on my computer. So, that's part of the difference. And, I got a few more lights shining on me here back in my regular studio. So a few more lights shining on me. So it's, we're doing what we can,
Absolutely. We do what we can here because we like to talk wrestling. And I think that's great to know that we go out of our way for this. Herb says the intro is good. Ah, Herb, my man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm trying to get into it, right? But now that you're here, Horse, we can finally start the talk portion of the Wrestle Talk podcast. I mean, are you ready to move on here?
Let's do it, my man.
All righty. Sounds good. So you're ready to jump into high spots?
Always. Well, have we done everything else? Have we got some sponsors rolling and everything?
We already got. Yeah, I was gonna say we got the intro. We got the sponsors. Am I missing anything else? William Battle Cat. Welcome to the show, man.
Have we hit the anthem? As Roseanne got
how could I forget? And now I know Night Owl silently judging me now. Of course, we can't move on here in the Wrestle Talk podcast without acknowledging the greatest country on the planet. That's right. It's America, damn it. So if you could, Night Owl, cue us up, and everybody place your hands on your hearts, remove your caps, because we have to dedicate this moment to the USA. Never gets old. Never gets old.
Brings a tear to your eye or blood to your ears. One of the
Susie Haas can confirm. You might want to check on her in a bit, Hardcore Haas.
So, all right. Well, I think we hit everything now. So let's go ahead and hit that DJ money for that high spot segment.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like player chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like a running speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a belly flop. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast. Now they know we about to start the show.
DJ Money playing us out. Be sure to follow him on social media, folks. Be sure to check him out. We wouldn't have that intro without him. But Hardcore Haas, Susie Haas putting into perspective, her ears feel a lot better. That's DJ Money for you, folks. But Hardcore Haas, a lot of happening in the world of wrestling in the past 24 hours. I'm assuming you caught a little bit of Raw, but we're not just going to be talking about WWE. We're not just going to be talking about AEW. We're talking about it all, baby. And there's a lot to talk about here on High Spots tonight. But just to catch your thoughts before we jump into this first question, is there any topic that you're really, really excited about tonight at all?
I was looking through some of the topics, and there are a lot of good topics in there. So I'm just anxious to get into all of them. Just hit as many of them as we can while we're waiting, through this first hour.
Yeah, just dive right in. So I think there's no better indicator than that. Night Owl, if you can hit that randomizer, we're ready to jump into our first High Spots question of the night. This is a good one. I think this is the one everybody's talking about. Just waiting for the visual real quick.
So
there it is. There it is. And all of its
color,
crimson. Yep. I was going to say with all of its crimson colored glory. Did you want to take the question here, Haas?
All right. So as the question says, with Cody getting some color last night, are we seeing a shift in WWE programming? Honestly, I believe we are seeing a shift in the programming of WWE. I mean, not just with things such as what you saw last night, but go back a few weeks and look, and it was mentioned about Sting's retirement match. That's something you would have never seen before. The fact that, okay, yeah, somebody retired and they could have been a top-notch superstar like Sting, but to retire over an AEW, they're not going to mention that. And they did actually mention it, and it was mentioned that was a good match. Then you look at it, they showed a picture of Rhea and Buddy, and it was even pointed out, who's that with Rhea? You would have never seen that before. Now, they might have shown the picture, but they would have blurred out Buddy. They wouldn't have shown both of them. So the fact that they showed both of them, and the fact that now you've got Bloodsport coming up, and there's the crossover there. So you are seeing a big change in the programming and what they're allowing, and I think it's something that's actually going to be good for wrestling to have this change instead of, trying to isolate into a little bubble. I think it's a good thing, and you are seeing the change.
Well, and then before we throw the question my way, I just wanted to ask you, in the world of wrestling right now, if you could see the forbidden door open in some way, what are some what are some notable companies? What are some notable people? I mean, how big do you want to see this play out, I guess? Because me personally, I want to see straight up, I want to see them with Impact or something. But that's me being a fanboy about it.
Well, you being the fanboy you are, we know you want to see Rainmaker come over and do some collaborative work there.
I love Okada.
But I'm not exactly sure how far we're going to see it go. I wouldn't mind seeing a little more collaboration here and there, but it's not something you're going to want to see on a normal basis, because then it's just going to lose the oh wow, look at that type thing. It's just going to come, yeah, it's another crossover.
So you definitely want to see it spaced out more to make it matter more, so to speak.
Yeah. So yeah, you definitely want to see it continue to be spaced out and not not become just your normal everyday thing. But I'd like to see more of it than what they currently have done in the past.
I can understand. So we'll pass the question my way. As far as that goes, I definitely agree. It always, the forbidden door being open doesn't really mean as much when everybody's just walking in and out. So I agree that I think they should be limited, but to throw it to the question and to actually tie it into Susie's comment, if you want to bring it back up here, I don't think that we're back in the Attitude Era. I think we're in an all new era. I think we have the dedicated fan base and the appeal of social media and, Twitter or X, whatever, Facebook, all that sort of thing, paired with the sort of new age wrestling fan. But finally WWE feels like it's respecting our intelligence and giving us what we want to see here. I don't think this is a new Attitude Era. I think this is a new renaissance. I think this is WWE tapping into something that they got the lightning in the bottle. Just work with it. Because I feel like we got, sprinkles of this last year. And it's funny enough, I was mentioning this on Night Owl in the green room, that I think we got a taste of this when Triple H was in charge for a little bit, and now we get it in full effect. And we're seeing the fruits of this effort, whether it was just a combination of the timing, who was on top, the fact that CM Punk is in the company, Cody's in the company, Rock is jumping back in. I think we're going to see a whole new era for WWE and the world of pro wrestling, as far as everybody taking it back to what makes them love wrestling and the things that make wrestling fun for everybody. But that's just me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of it is, you've got Triple H in charge of creative now. So he's doing a lot more creatively. Now they're bringing in The Rock into the board of directors. Mm-hmm. So you've got his input.
And then not to mention,
you've got a lot more input.
I'm sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted to say, and then not to mention the amount of talent on the backstage half of it, because think about the fact that we have Shawn Michaels in NXT. Jason Jordan is still calling a couple matches. Like, there's so many wrestling minds who understand that kind of zeitgeist, that juicy core of wrestling. That's really, I think we're going to pump out so many bangers, and it's under the right regime. It's under the right amount of supervision and just the right timing too. But to throw it back to you, Haas, I didn't mean to take over the question there.
But no, I was just saying, that like you pointed out, there's just so much input now from people from the Attitude Era and everything, that I think you will see a new era, and you will see more of what the fans have wanted to see for a while, versus this is what you want to see. And trust me, I know I'm the one that's giving it to you.
You watch what I tell you to watch. Jimmy Harris Sr., welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast, brother. What up? It's good to hear from you.
So, yeah, exactly. So
now the real question is, Haas, what do we call this new era? Because we think of like the original as the rock and roll and wrestling, or, the golden era. And then we call, obviously we have the new generation era. Then we had the attitude era, ruthless aggression, the PG era, as some people like to call it. What do we call this new sort of shift in the paradigm? Like, because me personally, I like Renaissance era, but that's just me. But that's me being an artsy fartsy 25-year-old about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you would call it yet, but I'm sure it'll come up with something quite catchy for you.
Fair enough. Some people are saying Bloodline era, but Assad, welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast. It's always good to see one of our always time and trusted members. But with all that, and of course, as always, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Tweet out to us, guys. We'd love to talk about it. We'd love to hear your input. But with that being said, I think it's about time we should move on to the next question, right, Haas?
Oh yeah, definitely.
The Extreme Ruthless Attitude era.
Did AEW Dynamite have pay-per-view feel with Okada winning the Continental Championship and Adam Cole winning the TNT Championship?
You want if I take the lead on this one?
Go ahead. I'd like to hear what you think on this one.
To answer the question up front and outright, and I know y'all are gonna say I'm biased because a certain Rainmaker is on this card, but to me, the outstanding answer is yes. I genuinely think with all the pieces that they've had in place, I think the fights felt worth it. I thought the names delivered, and I thought the crowd was 1,000% into it. And all I can really say, I mean, I could say a lot more, obviously, but if I'm only going to say one thing about this show, watch it. I'm sure the past couple of weeks of AEW programming may seems a little uneventful, but with all the recent acquisitions, acquiring that they've done, with the wrestling on display and just Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland alone with the most feverish I have ever heard a Canadian crowd give it a second chance. Watch AEW Dynamite because, yes, it did have a pay-per-view feel, and they still haven't blown their load leading up to Dynasty. But that's just my 2 cents. Haas, what were your thoughts about AEW Dynasty or Dynamite? Excuse me.
Honestly, this past AEW Dynamite, you know, with it being a 3-hour show this time, and you know, the Continental match, and you had Adam Copeland and a Last Man Standing match, you know, and those 2 titles changing hands. Yeah, it really did at the beginning have the feel of a pay-per-view. Now, after Adam Copeland's match, you know, when they switched to the second part of the show, I felt that the energy kind of went down a little bit, you know, kind of like they had already shown the best. So, and to me, AEW seems to have a history of that. You know, they kind of show their best matches first. And then when it comes to the main event, it's like, okay, well, we've already seen the best of the night. So, but you watch it anyway. But yes, the first part really did have a pay-per-view feel to it and was really exciting. The second part, not quite as much. The second part seemed more like a normal AEW show to me.
I mean, I've heard your opinion, but I disagree with it. No. But no, I can definitely understand that. At least it's AJ Wallace. I believe it was an I Quit match. I believe he is correct. Yes, it was an I Quit match between Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. But I don't know. I to me, the hockey fight was my favorite part. And it's like, did they show their hand a little early? Absolutely. But I still think that's enough to carry a show. But maybe I'm just easy to please. Uh-oh. All right, and the first bonus topic of the night, we have who will have a longer run and why, Okada or Adam Copeland? Haas, do you want to take, we'd like to hear your thoughts first?
All right. In my opinion, which one will have the longer run? Probably Okada, because people are so excited over Okada coming to AEW, and you know, there's so much more build up around it than there is Adam right now, and Adam's so much closer to the end of his career than Okada is. I really look for Okada to have the longer run of the two.
Now, to be fair, it does say longer run. So I don't know that that means longevity in terms of career. I think he just means who's going to stick around the longest. Because, and I think the reason Night Owl brings this up is because, yes, Okada is a current like big signee, but think about how many wrestlers have sort of had that big feel. And yes, he won a title, but I got one name to throw out there just to kind of remind everybody, Miro. Think about how quickly he was shoved into the TNT title program. He was hyped up as this big thing, got lost in the shuffle, lost the belt, wasn't really losing many matches. So, and we know that Copeland is there for the long run. He's there to wrestle because we know he's probably not coming back to WWE anytime soon, at least not under the contract as a wrestler. But I do agree with you because I think not only the connection with the Young Bucks, but Kenny Omega with his potential to come back. Oh, longer title run. I definitely think Okada's got that. They want Okada to get the longest run.
Well, and Okada is only the second person to hold that title.
Well, and that belt is built for him. That's the thing, is that it's, I don't know if you caught the rules specifically, but the fact that nobody's allowed at ringside, so no sports shenanigans, that's just it. So that already eliminates a lot of issues he's had with people like Evil in New Japan. But the rules for the tournament, And you might think, well, how could he benefit from that? This dude is from New Japan. Winning tournaments is kind of his deal. This man won the G1 Climax twice. So if anybody's going to get a clean sweep and hold on to a belt like Okada, it's Okada. I'm just saying, look at that. This man was built for that belt. So I definitely think he will have the longer of the two, but I think Edge will have more despite how short the run is, because to me, the TNT title is closer to a television title, and he wants to continue his open challenges with younger talent. I know I haven't seen much of it recently, but I know, so I get a very big Cena US title vibe to where maybe his run will end shorter because, he loses it on TV, but he's defending it every week. But I think he'll have more matches per appearance compared to Okada in terms of the length. But with that being said, I think we've sort of exhausted all this on this question. If we'd like to jump on to the next High Spots question, Hardcore Hoss, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All righty. Woo.
Now that Mercedes Moné is all elite, do you think that was good acquisition for AEW? Gabe, you want to throw that out there? Tell us how you feel.
I thought you'd never ask. For me, the answer is yes. I think AEW's women's division is sort of seeing an overhaul. And I think we can all agree that having a really big established name hasn't been anything major since Toni Storm. And now that we have another A-plus player in Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, I'd like to just clarify, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more going forward from the women's division. Hopefully we can see more storylines. We can just see more time dedicated to them. I think we have to wait for the next coming weeks, but the fact that immediately in the episode, she established herself with Willow Nightingale. So we're definitely going to see that feud down the line. And genuinely just having a locker room leader in the sense that, hey, now we have a really big name that can not only build our women's division up, but build some stars in the process, whether that's through tag teams, whether that's through appearances through their other options like New Japan or Ring of Honor, potential feuds with people like Athena, Chris Statlander. I don't know if she's working there. I might be getting mixed up. But Thunder Rosa, I think there's still dream match opportunities with like Hikaru Shida. So we'll wait to see. But as it stands now, I think it was a good purchase. I think they didn't fault for doing it. I don't know if it was worth the money, but it's in her name. So, but I got to throw it to you, Haas. What do you think? I mean, do you think this might have been a dud? Are you excited about Mercedes?
For AEW, I think it was a great acquisition. I think, picking her up was very smart of them. I think that it was a big deal for them to pick her up. And, they had a dominant women's division, and then it started to kind of fall off due to injuries and, some people leaving. And so, their women's division did start falling off a little bit. So now they're trying to make it that dominant division again. And she is going to be one hell of a piece of doing that. And I think it was a great pickup for AEW to pick her up. Now, will it bolster her career further? I don't know how much it's going to do for her, but for AEW, I think it's really going to be a big push for them to have her.
Well, I think somebody might have to give us his opinion on that, because it's not just a two-person show here tonight. We got one more person jumping in at the moment, because I believe Skywalker has finally arrived to the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight.
You know something, gentlemen? It's baseball season. You know, guys, it's baseball season. It's the Wrestle Talk podcast. It's the Slow Lane episode tonight, 475. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say this right here, right simple. Gabe, I'm going to level with you. I think you're wrong.
Okay.
And
Coming
here's
in
what
with
I'm
the
saying.
fire right
I'm
now.
not saying you're wrong because of Mercedes Moné becoming all elite. She is a great addition. Just like a Toni Storm, just like a Mariah May, just like a Rio. There are so many women in the women's roster of AEW that Mercedes Moné definitely belongs in the picture. But you know, one name that both of you gentlemen left out, a name that has traveled the world, a name that a lot of people are not even considering into the discussion. And that is one, the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo. If you're going to have a conversation with wrestlers like Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander, and I could go on and on and on. If you leave Deonna Purrazzo out of the mix, you're going to have another woman that you got to take along with the Willow Nightingales and the Sky Blues. And again, everybody's talking about people like Mercedes Moné. You've got to look at the idea. Check this one out. Julia Hart. If I'm not mistaken, 23 years old, TBS champion.
That sounds like easy prey.
Easy prey, nothing. If she's 23 and she's the champion, imagine what she's going to be 2, 3, 4 years down. And also, you got to look at it too. Where's Britt Baker? Where's Thunder Rosa? I mean, when you look at those names, Mercedes Moné, it's a great thing they picked her up because she belongs in the discussion. And gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, in just a little over a half hour's time, we're going to be joined by the one and the only Fred Slow from Duke City Championship Wrestling. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you asked him this question, he's probably going to think along the same lines as me. Gentlemen, there's a lot of questions here tonight. We got a lot of great spots. We got a lot of great viewers here on the program. I saw earlier on, we got Susie Haas. We've got, of course, the one, the only Herb Simmons is in the house, and going ahead and looking at some of all those great comments that we have here, talking about people like Assad is here, AJ Wallace is in the house, Jim Harris is here. We got William Battle here in the program as well. We got a lot of great people here. Don McGuire, thank you for checking in. Tonight's a great show, but I got to tell you, Mercedes Moné, it's a great pickup, but when you look at professional wrestling, especially in the women's division of AEW, as we approach Dynasty for AEW, it's real simple. It's go time for the women's division.
No truer words have been spoken. Always nice to hear from Skywalker when it comes to the Wrestle Talk podcast. But Haas, you think it's about time to hop on to the next high spots question?
Oh, definitely. You know, love all these great questions, you know. And if you have a question out there, feel free, throw it up in the chat, you know, we'll get put up on the screen. We'd love to discuss it. Or if you got a take on it, feel free to throw it out there so we can see it.
Hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling.
That's it.
Tweet us out, folks. Let's talk wrestling. That's what we're here to do. Even if you like a terrible wrestler, we want to hear about it. And speaking of terrible wrestlers, just kidding. With CM Punk. Hardcore Haas isn't the biggest fan of Pepsi Phil. With CM Punk's role at Mania decided, do you think this is a good fit for him? Since I know you don't like talking about this guy, do you want to take the lead on this one, Hardcore Haas? You can get out of the way.
Do I think it's a good fit for him? Honestly, you know, what better can he do than run his mouth? So yeah, it is a good fit for him to be on commentary. You know, am I excited to see it though? Not really. You know, I was looking forward to not seeing him, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I do think that it's going to be a good fit for him to be on commentary during the match, and it hopefully will add to the match and not take away from the fact that he's sitting there at commentary.
Well, I guess I'll take it from here. I couldn't agree harder. The thing is, and I want to, kind of let these people down nicely. For those of you, and I know that they mentioned it last night, that they think maybe he'd be better as the referee, busted arm and all. That's not my issue with it. And I have to agree with what Haas said here. What better suits CM Punk than the announce table? And if you guys don't think that I know what I'm talking about here, watch some of his stuff from WWE Main Event when he was just bullying Josh Matthews. Really give it a shot. Now put him in the ring or put him on commentary with two people he can't stand right now. This is essentially a Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins match with Punk given free reign to say whatever the hell he wants. So I think you're going to get everything you want out of this match and more. And I just can't wait because I know we can't name drop him on TV, but I'm giddy at the thought of Punk just going, what a maneuver for the most mundane things for that match ever. But to bring it back, I absolutely think this is a perfect fit for Punk. And I don't knock the idea of him being a special guest referee. I just don't think it works as well. I think it creates too many moving parts for a match that really doesn't need all that. We know Punk is going to get first dibs on whoever wins this match. And quite frankly, he has a lot to say about both of these gentlemen, especially after Drew McIntyre has been poking him the way that he has since he's been out. So I cannot wait to see it. I think it is a perfect fit for him. I don't think he needs to be a special guest referee. I just want to see him scream, what a maneuver. But yeah, I think that's all we really got for that. So Haas, you ready to hop on to the next question? You're muted, Bo.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's do it.
All right.
Are you disappointed Bray Wyatt won't be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame this year?
Do I have to answer this question? Oh boy. You know what? You mind if I take the lead on this one, Haas? Just because I want to try and land the plane as best as I can.
Go ahead.
Alrighty. So when I read this question, folks, I can't help but be put in mind to, funnily enough, one of the first appearances I had on the Wrestle Talk podcast about 2 to 3 years ago. But we had a similar question when one of the members of Crime Time had passed away, saving his son, and people were concerned and asked, why do they think he shouldn't have won the Warrior Award? And the only reason I feel like I have to give the same answer I gave back then is that I feel like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. That by not putting him into the Hall of Fame, people are going to be upset because, he did contribute so much to the, wrestling as a whole. One of the biggest creative minds that we could ever think about when it comes to both character work, promo work, lore. I can't even imagine thinking that for WWE. But I think putting him in this soon is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way solely because they think it is too soon to the man dying for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but I feel like it's a question of when, not if, because while he's not there now, I feel like it's already because they had their people determined. They didn't really have a spot for him to begin with because they knew who they wanted prior to Mania because they already planned out the Hall of Fame. But do I see him potentially coming down in the line, possibly next year or further down the line? Absolutely. But I'm not torn up about it, quite frankly. I think the documentary sort of acts as a stand-in until we eventually get that Hall of Fame entry, but I'm not particularly torn up about it. I mean, I know that I hope that doesn't make me sound terrible, but yeah. But I mean, what are your thoughts, Haas? Are you disappointed that Bray Wyatt isn't featured in the WWE Hall of Fame this year?
You know, I believe he deserves his spot in the Hall of Fame. Does it necessarily have to be this year? It doesn't necessarily have to be. I think a lot of people were hoping that it would. And, you know, while, I mean, don't get me wrong, people are still going to love Bray Wyatt no matter what. But while everything is still fresh and the love is still fresh, they wanted to have it. But it's like you said, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when will it happen. You know, he will be there one of these days. Now, will it be this year? Obviously not. Will it be next year? Who knows? I do believe, though, that they knew they would hear something from a lot of his fans about not putting him in there, and that is why why the timing of this Bray Wyatt special that they're going to show, the timing of it is because they're hoping that'll say, okay, that'll appease people. But I don't think it necessarily had to be this year they put him in, but I think he will be there eventually. So just have to be patient.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to step in here for just a minute. I think we need to have kind of a middle ground between the two of you. When it comes down to it, Gabe, I don't think that what you've said is in a wrong connotation. Now, a lot of people say that the contribution that Bray Wyatt, Husky Harris, I believe Axel Mulligan at one point or another, yeah, he made a huge contribution into the WWE. No one will dispute his legacy in the WWE. The only thing, and again, I don't think it's a slight on the legacy of Bray Wyatt. I think it's one of those situations where when you look at the man's career, and Haas, you brought up a real good point in the idea that when you have this kind of a situation that takes place, looking at what this documentary has, this documentary is going to give us an opportunity to appreciate the career, the person, the life that was Bray Wyatt, or as many of them knew him as Wyndham Rotunda. But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be the beginning. The idea of where you're going to see a lot more acknowledgement of what Bray Wyatt did. And I'll tell you right now, in the world of professional wrestling, I've talked many times about my own family being in professional wrestling. And a lot of times, my own brother and I had two completely different points of view on Bray Wyatt. Because the idea that some people would say that the Fiend was a little too over the top, a little too cinematic, a little too out there. But it's something that the WWE hadn't seen. I think they've aired it in the commercials countless times. In the idea of he was outside the box. He was light years ahead of his time. And I think, in all honesty, when we see this documentary, which is going to take place, I believe it's April 1st is when it's supposed to be released on Peacock. I think a lot of people, if you don't watch this, I think you're going to be neglecting the acknowledgement of one of the greatest personalities we've seen in many a year in the WWE.
Well said.
All right, now, gentlemen, I know we have a lot of things to talk about here in the world of professional wrestling. We've got a lot of high spots questions, but you know something, guys? One of the things, and I've had a lot of conversations with the Night Owl on this one. And considering the fact it is baseball season, I mean, again, most teams are starting Thursday. I know this is the Wrestle Talk podcast. I'm going to tell you right now, gentlemen, I think, in all honesty, it's time. We're right at the peak of WrestleMania season. We are right at the doorstep of one of the greatest 7 to 10 days in the world of professional wrestling. You know what I think it's time for? And I know Hardcore Hoss knows, and Gabe, this may be a little bit before your time, but I think we need to take a little trip back down memory lane to a segment of the program that we all have looked forward to, a segment that I remember talking with a great friend of the show who loved being a part of this each and every week. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, if you would please be so kind, it is now time as the music will show.
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. Everything is fun, everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you want to justify ripping someone's head off. No human contact, and if you interact, your life is on contract. Your best bet's to stay away, motherfucker. It's just one of those days. It's all about the he says, she says bullshit. I think you.
All right. I told you guys, tonight we got a lot of things coming up. We got to come back to the shoot and shout segment. We got to get here right now because I know there's a lot of things on people's minds getting ready for, of course, WrestleMania week. It's only a little more than a week away. Gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, I think I've said this once before. My shoot and shout is going to be real simple. It's going to be real straightforward. Don't disrespect the Cubs. I have heard far too many people talk trash about the Chicago Cubs. I will tell you right now, I'm a St. Louis, and I'm not even going to fib about that. I know for a fact if we talked about this in a few minutes and we have our guest Fred Slow on the program, I know he wouldn't let you disrespect on the Chicago Cubs. But I'm going to tell you right now, everybody's talking about teams like the St. Louis Cardinals and how they're so great, and talking about teams like the New York Yankees, or talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm going to tell you right now, don't sit back and wait on the Cubs. Don't disrespect the Cubs because they're going to do something in 2024. That's my shoot and shout. I'm not really worried about what anybody else thinks. It is the year of the Cubs. It's back. It's baseball season, baby. Chicago Cubs baseball. Check them out. WGN 670 The Score. Make sure you check them out. Hopefully they'll tune in to us here at the Wrestle Talk podcast. I'm going to send this right over to Hardcore Hoss. Hardcore Hoss, I know you got a shoot and shout out here too. And Gabe, I know you want to talk, but it's Hardcore Hoss's time here on the shoot.
I just was going to say, if I didn't know any better, I thought you brought back the shoot and shout segment just to name drop some talk about baseball. But Hardcore Hoss, throwing it to you.
Well, you know, I'm going to be nice, Luke. I won't actually diss on your Cubs, but, you know, I do have my Orioles hat back here, you know. So.
Who?
But, like I say, I'll be nice. I won't diss on your Cubs, you know. But, yeah, for my shoot and shout, you know, instead of it being a shoot and shout on anybody or what anybody's doing or anything like that, mine is, why is it whenever you get something that happens that you think is good and you're in a good mood, something always has to go wrong that aggravates you, especially when it comes to damn technology. It never fails.
It's almost like it hears us sometimes. Things can't go wrong this day. Blue screen.
Well, Gabe, I'm going to throw this at you right now. I'm a level with you here. When it comes down to it, my friend, I know there's a lot on your mind. You've been doing a job here tonight. I want to throw things to you. I want to hear the words of wisdom from Gabe here this evening as we get ready to embark on our interview. We get ready to embark in hour 2. Take it away, Gabe. We want to hear your shooting shot.
Well, I'll tell you, I got a fucking bone to pick with the drivers in Fort Myers. It's like I'll be upfront. All right, this month has been pretty meh for me. The BJs that I'm working at and selling my product that they've been kind of hit and miss. This store was one of the better ones. But when I tell you, these people make teenage drivers look competent. There is no hyperbole. We came within inches of hitting so many cars. And me and my wife are just done with everything. We were ready to fight on the side of the street, okay? By the time we had finished, the last thing anybody wanted to do was mess with us because the fucking drivers in Fort Myers need to go back to the DMV. I swear to God. But that's my shoot and shout segment. I'm glad I could open the show for you guys. I got some food to eat right now, but it was a pleasure to ride it out for you guys. And be sure to tell him I said hi for our guest in the second hour. And be sure to take.
Hold on. We got one more thing. And Gabe, I'm going to tell you right now, you have been a rock star tonight. We've been getting lots of great comments. We've been getting lots of great things. There's one thing, and we've talked about it at length, and you and I talked about it earlier this afternoon. You have done such an awesome job here tonight. And I think, to be perfectly honest with everybody that's here and everybody that's been watching the show and they've been taking care of what needs to be done, he has done an awesome job when it comes down to running the show, taking care of what's there. And I think, first of all, he deserves a great round of applause when it comes to his participation here tonight. All right, now, I'm a level with you, Gabe. When we're talking about things in the world of pro wrestling, there's been something that has been on your mind for a long time. It's something that you and I have talked about at length. You've talked with the Night Owl for a long time at length. And I think it's time for you. And let me go ahead and hit the breaking news, because this is monumental in the world of the Wrestle Talk podcast. This could not have been done without all the great support of the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast. And considering that our great friend has the opportunity here, I'm going to go ahead and hit the breaking news for you. Give me just a minute. We need to make sure that all the viewers see this, because this is going to be history on the Wrestle Talk podcast. So let's go ahead, Mr. Soundman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Gabe, take it away.
Well, folks, very, very close to right now, a major wrestling promotion, a very major wrestling promotion, if you will, is going to be having a certain show in a certain state of a certain Wrestle Talk podcast host. And I guess I should stop beating around the bush, folks. MLW War Chamber is coming to Florida, St. Petersburg, and yours truly will be giving you the Wrestle Talk podcast exclusive from the event here in St. Petersburg, and I cannot tell you how excited I am. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank every single one of our fans out in the Wrestle Talk podcast family. Without you getting the word out there, without you talking about the show, hashtagging us, doing everything you can, without our sponsors, and I just got to say, without my fellow Wrestle Talk podcast hosts, I would not have this opportunity here. And I just want to thank every single one of you for this chance, for this opportunity to, show my passion for the business, to be able to cover this, to talk wrestling with everybody, and just to experience an event like this live. It's emphatic. I just can't tell you what it does to me. And like I said, MLW, it's gonna be awesome. I'm as you guys can see, I can barely contain myself, and we're right around the corner. It's just this Friday, the 29th. War Chamber. It promises to be something special.
Well, you know something, Gabe? It's going to be special. It's going to be historic for the Wrestle Talk podcast because we, and you said it very loudly, we, as the Wrestle Talk podcast, have been working hard for 475 episodes to take care of what needs to be done to bring you the best in professional wrestling. And tonight, we can officially say that we have moved to the next level, and it's all because of our great viewership that takes care of us each and every week, all of our great sponsors, everybody. Without you, these things don't happen. Hardcore Hoss, I know you've been around the show, like myself, for a long time. What do you think of Gabe's announcement this Friday night, Wrestle Talk Podcast, live at MLW's War Chamber?
I think it's absolutely awesome, and Gabe getting the chance to go and represent Wrestle Talk there. It's just something, it's another step for the Wrestle Talk podcast to go be represented at an event of that magnitude. So, Gabe, congratulations on getting to go. I know you're excited over it, and just look forward to hearing all about your experience after you get to go.
Well, you know something, gentlemen? I'm gonna tell you this right now. And Gabe, I know this is an MLW, okay, but I think I have something very special for you. This is something I think we've only aired one, maybe two more times in the history of the Wrestle Talk podcast. I want to get you in the right mindset for this Friday night. And of course, this was recommended by our broadcast colleague, the one and only, the maestro, Jeremy Karp. Let's get our good friend ready as he journeys to the War Chamber this Friday night in St. Petersburg. Hold on one second here. Come on. I had that great build-up. And now it's taking its time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you heard it right here, our one and only, and of course now we're going to have all the technology that is right from the program. But you know what? It's okay. Because right now, we're getting ready for the war for this coming Friday night, live, St. Florida. You have an opportunity if you're anywhere near St. Petersburg, make it a point to check out. All right. I think we've got you psyched up for it. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Gabriel Arsene. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you heard it right here. He's going to be live this Friday night at War Chamber. MLW, want to give a shout out to all the great folks at MLW for allowing us to be there as a part of the media. And Gabe, for those that know, make it a point, check out the Wrestle Talk Podcast Facebook account, because we're going to have live videos. We're going to have live photos. We're going to have, you name it, MLW War Chamber, courtesy of the one and the only Gabriel Arsene. Gabriel, thank you for joining us here this evening. Look forward to having you back here soon. Once again, I know you're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, that's hour number 1. If we can't follow up hour number 1 with something big, you know what? It's only going to get bigger, because here in just a few moments, we're going to be joined by the one and only Fred Slow from Duke City Championship Wrestling, talking about their event this coming weekend. And as a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead real quick. Hoss, I got to ask you, with the first hour, and we're going to go ahead. Gabriel, we will see you next week right here on the program. We've got that taken care of here.
You know where else you're going to see me? You're going to see me at MLW War Chamber, because I'm going to be there. Matt Riddle's going to be there. Everybody, Satoshi Kojima. It's going to be fantastic. I'm excited, but I got to go eat. I could barely contain it, Luke. I'm sorry. But just to throw it out, Wrestle Talk Podcast, I love you. I'm going to take plenty of photos. Be sure to check out the page, because MLW War Chamber is coming to you courtesy of Gabriel Arcine. But you guys have a great rest of the night. Tell him I said hi, and keep it all going, brothers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, monumental news here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. As we sit here right now, we're going to be taking part in MLW's War Chamber. And just to give you a heads up as well here, this isn't the only thing in the works as we're on the way to 500. This is not the only thing that's on the way. We have a lot more to take care of here. We're on the way to 500. We are on the way to have the opportunity to bring forth memories for the Wrestle Talk Podcast. And Hardcore Hoss, I got to tell you right now, this has been a great first half of the show. Now, I know we've got a few more questions here in the randomizer. But before we get too much farther along, I want to go ahead, if you would be so kind, I'm going to go ahead here. And as we talked about before, and I know Gabriel hit this just a couple minutes ago when he was talking about it, without our great viewers, we don't exist for 475 episodes. But there's also another group of people that without who we don't exist for 475 episodes. So, ladies and gentlemen, as our good friend, Lord Alfred Hayes, always used to say, and of course, now we have to wait just a minute here because of the fact that I kept it quiet. Let's go ahead and try it again. As our good friend, the late Lord Alfred Hayes, used to say,
promotional consideration paid for by the following.
All right, at this point, Hardcore Hoss, I'm going to go ahead and throw things over to you so we talk about all of our great sponsors.
That's right. As always, we want to thank all of our great sponsors, Royal Mills Transportation, Dewan Mills, with all your transportation needs, Nobleman's Barber Lounge, KCMO, Ask for Pete the Barber, Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Jeremy Carp and the guys over there, Little Popeyes Designs, where you get your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. So,
well, you know something, Hardcore Hoss, as we go ahead and we move forward here, we're going to be joined here in just a few minutes by the one, the only Fred Slow. I got to ask you something, and we don't normally get a chance to talk about this. I want to take just a minute. I know that you have a lot of wrestling memories, both behind you and things that you've gotten to experience. I have a question for you. As a wrestling fan, not just as a host of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, as a wrestling fan, what would you say is your favorite part of WrestleMania week?
You know, to me, one of my favorite things at WrestleMania is it no matter I'm trying to get my thoughts in order here. You know, no matter what, you know, somebody is having a get together for WrestleMania somewhere. And they may not do it for every single pay-per-view, but always at WrestleMania time, you can get together with friends or other fans of wrestling and just have a good time with them during WrestleMania. And like I say, that doesn't always happen at all the pay-per-views. Some of them you just end up watching at home by yourself or watching at home with family. But you can get together with so many more people and just have so much more fun during your WrestleMania watch parties. And it's really something special when you get to do it with other people.
And something, Hardcore Hoss, I could agree with you 100%. When you have the opportunity to experience WrestleMania weekend, a lot of people say it is the Super Bowl of professional wrestling. Having the opportunity, I'm going to tell you, I've been around wrestling for 36 years, and I've never had the opportunity to experience a WrestleMania live. But the camaraderie, the togetherness, I liken it to what they say for the WWE. Then, now, forever, together. That is what it means to me, seeing all these great things, family, friends, people from all around talking about the world of professional wrestling. And that's what I've kind of grown to love with the Wrestle Talk podcast, is that we are a family. We talk about wrestling all the time. We talk about something that we enjoy. But you know something? I have one more person that I want to go ahead and bring to the discussion, bring to the party here on the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. This is a man I've had the opportunity to know for many years. It seems like every time he travels to a different part of the country to go out and show the world how great of a broadcaster he is, to show how great of a knowledgeable sports mind he is, he always follows professional wrestling. He always follows something that he enjoys. And I remember seeing something we posted earlier about being like us, being a wrestling junkie. But I'm going to tell you right now, this man tonight is a man that I respect to the nth degree. He is a man who has traveled the globe in the world of professional wrestling. And I'm going to go ahead right now and once again welcome him to the Wrestle Talk podcast family. I'm going to go ahead and give him a little bit of intro music before we bring him in, because I think it's fitting tonight here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Representing Duke City Championship Wrestling out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the one, the only, the man known for being a part of Sports Animal Radio. You know him. He is the face of the Wrestle Talk podcast. He's the face of Duke City Championship Wrestling. The one, the only, Fred Slow joining us here. And as you see right here on the video screen, the last professional promoter. Fred, my friend, how in the world are you doing this evening?
Luke, my old friend. I mean, we're going professional names here. We're going gimmick names. Luke, how are you? Hardcore Hoss. Brother, it's been a long time. Thank you for having me on the program. Thank you for exposing me to the fan base once again after all these years. And thank you for recognizing Fabulous Freddie Fame is the last professional promoter. You're talking obviously about Duke City Championship Wrestling, monthly pro wrestling here in the land of enchantment, beautiful and historic Albuquerque, New Mexico at the El Rey Theater. You can catch all of our action. Our weekly episodic program is on YouTube. That's for everyone to absorb. At Duke City Championship Wrestling, come hang out with us. Some of the biggest names in the game, including Jacob Fatu. We had a very fun run-in last month with Brian Idol as our hometown hero, Hobo Hank, is taking on all comers from the MK Army. We're talking about Matthew Robles bringing in heat and anxiety to the city that is Albuquerque and the culture that is pro wrestling. We're so very fortunate to be where we are. And before we get more into that, I wanted to piggyback off you boys. You know, I've been to a lot of WrestleManias. You guys know I go to the big four events every year. I'm so very fortunate through CBS Sports, where I work, to work alongside WWE and have an opportunity at press conferences to interact with the superstars and kind of talk about the world's going on alongside some really big and fortunate for me AEW events. There's nothing as spectacular as a WrestleMania in person. If you have not, you need to. And I cannot stress that to you enough. You can be at the very top where you don't hear him hit the ring until 2 seconds later. Or you can be where I'm so very fortunate to sit, which is often ringside at some of the biggest events. And it is a energy that is unmatched. It's better than Super Bowls, which I've been also fortunate to go to. It's better than World Series. It's better than World Cup soccer. I am scheduled to go to the Olympics in 2028. And that to me might be a comparison, but there's nothing as spectacular as a WrestleMania in person. And I encourage you boys, if not Philadelphia, get up to the next one. I think I know where it's at. A little birdie told me. I think I know where it's at. I'm not going to break any news here, but you won't want to miss the next one because that city is full of sin, boys. And that'll be a lot of fun if you get out to that. Also, I was at Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble was incredible last January, right? So whenever that story does start, and this one actually started Survivor Series, which is in Chicago. I was at that as well. Whenever CM Punk returned, we're about to get a 6-month payoff here in just 2 weeks, boys, and it's going to be as good and as fun as anything you've ever done. Thanks for having me. I love being here.
Well, you know something, Fred? I'm going to tell you right now, and this is something I don't think a lot of our viewers know. I mean, again, you are very well known all across many different avenues of media. I mean, again, you've had the opportunity to be, when it talks to professional baseball, professional soccer, you name it, you've covered it.
Yeah.
I have on a good authority, and I think you could share a little bit of the background story before we talk about this weekend's event at the El Rey Theater in Albuquerque. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a picture that I saw.
Yeah.
I think Hardcore Hoss saw it too.
Yep.
Of a certain last professional promoter
Mm-hmm.
who happened to have an opportunity recently to be live on a certain WWE post-event media scrum. My question is to you, can you tell us a little more about where that picture came from and what is it like as a fan such as yourself to be in the room with some of the greatest wrestlers in the business today?
Well, you're asking a tremendous question, right? And the first question I would ask in response is, which picture are we talking about, Luke? Right? Because how fortunate I have been throughout my professional career to be in the graces and presence of some people who are really talented in this game, you know, and you're talking about fandom, right? Fandom is an interesting one. I am 39 years old. The longest relationship in my life is my relationship with professional wrestling. There's no doubt in my mind. The fandom that started for me in 1990 and is now grown to today in 2024 is a culmination of weekly episodic television, right? It's a culmination of storytelling. And at certain points in my watching and personal fandom, not professional interacting, it was dirt sheets and it was speculative and it was all these other fun things, which I don't necessarily dive into anymore. I don't check the Twitter and the TikTok and the Instagram. I'm not that guy. I just want what you give me on TV. Like that's how I absorb now. But with that said, yeah, if I'm so fortunate at a WrestleMania or a Survivor Series or a SummerSlam or a Royal Rumble, because those are the only ones I go to. Like I don't go to Money in the Bank. I don't get to go to Australia. That stuff doesn't happen. But whenever I do get to go to this stuff, how very fortunate I am to be in the mix and be able to say, hey, my name's Fred, and I think my audience and I think the audience of pro wrestling would like to know about this. And what do I do is I ask that question, right? And I think, I don't remember what the last one I asked was, but at the Royal Rumble, you remember all the weird stuff with Vince McMahon and all the stuff going on, right? There's a ton of stuff, and he's not part of the company, and TK owns it now, and it's a whole different dynamic, boys. Like from the time that WWE was running it for all those years, and we're interacting with, do we need to put back of the house names out here? I don't know if we do at all. There's some back of the house guys that have been at WWE forever, right? They're not there anymore. They're at AEW. They're with other companies. There's some new guys at the back of the house for WWE, and they're kind and they're smart and they're interactive. TKO's over all that now. It's a whole different dynamic. You don't get the fun walk around backstage interaction. I could compare it, I think, real easily to the UFC and when they were bought by TKO, where you lost a lot of that strong personal, like, inner relationships with people, and you're not able to say, hit them with a dap and say hello and say hi, because it's now so structured and so organized. And when that final hits in a WrestleMania, and I think the main event on Saturday is going to be the tag team with The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins and his buddy Cody Rhodes. When that bell hits, it's straight to the press conference. Like, we don't get to stand there. We don't get to watch them like in the ring, soaking in the moment. Some of my favorite times in pro wrestling, we got to go work, and it's right to it. And that's the thing. When I am so fortunate to be at these events and they have kindly featured me on some television, that's really kind. But there's all these other fun ancillary ones, right? Like I'm at the Super Bowl broadcasting in February. WWE comes out. Who's the first table that Seth Rollins walks up to when he walks in? We're talking who's there. Pat McAfee's there, right? Like who else is there? CBS Sports is there. Sirius XM is there. Fight Nation is there. Everyone is there. We're the first table. Like you're gonna walk into Ray Rowe. You're gonna walk over to Fred Slow. Like there's a good feeling involved in that, right? So you get to have a lot of fun and a lot of interpersonal connections that strive more than just the industry. And whenever you can sit down with a guy like Seth Rollins and talk about how good Casey's Pizza is because he grew up in Iowa, you get to have a lot of fun in those conversations. And then lastly, we don't run Duke City Championship Wrestling on the weekends. You know that for a fact. We are a Thursday night promotion where we do 2 hours and 15 minutes and we cut it into 4 episodic episodes of Duke City Championship Wrestling, the exact way they did at the Chase all those years ago in St. Louis, my hometown where I grew up. There's nothing new about this formula, boys. Hoss, there's nothing new about this. For a fact, everything in wrestling is stolen. I stole this formula. Like what we're doing here in Duke City, what we're doing here in Albuquerque has been done before, and it was done really well by guys who are more talented than me. And how fortunate we are to have brought in some NWA talent. How fortunate we are to have brought in some guys that have performed for AEW. And how fortunate we are to be forecasting some guys that have wrestled with WWE. And this fun little idea has become a really intense wrestling promotion and the pride of the Southwest, if you ask the last professional promoter. And that's me, Fabulous Freddie Fame.
Well, something, Fred, when you talk about professional wrestling, you talk about everything that's going on. And again, Duke City Championship Wrestling, I mean, again, you guys have been literally on fire in the Southwest. I mean, had an opportunity. Matter of fact, going back and doing my research, we're talking about you had an event here at the Curry County Event Center recently.
We went to Dirty Curry.
And it's one of those, when you sit here and look at it, you got lots of different events that you've been taking part of. I believe you had your Border Wars event as well. We're going to talk about a lot of great things. But before we do, you and I have a very good rapport. But I know you've had an opportunity to talk with Hoss in the past. Hardcore Hoss, I know you're here. I know you're ready. I know you're here to talk with the one and only the last professional promoter of Freddie Fame. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to you, Hardcore Hoss.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah, it's a pleasure to get to sit and talk with you, and been looking forward to this interview. But one thing I always like to start with is, what's something that the world should know about you? And it doesn't have to be wrestling related, but something they may not know about you that the whole world should just know about you.
Oh, that's so kind. What a fun question. There's a fun, in my opinion, approach to professionalism that I don't think I share enough with others. And I don't know if I'm still in the stream there or not, Hoss, because I lost you temporarily. But the thing I would try to always communicate about myself is that there's a way for us to all professionally have a lot of fun. And I don't do a good enough job in my personal life of telling people how fortunate I am. So I think that's the first thing I would tell others is I am, just as it relates to professionally, the most fortunate individual I've ever met to be able to have found success in radio for the last 20 years. And now what a lot of people, I believe, would Hoss claim to be a quick success in the world of pro wrestling, specifically as it relates to a promotion. I've never wrestled, Hoss. I'm not a pro wrestler. I don't want to take a bump. Like, I'm barely learning industry terms, but I do know that the way that Bobby Heenan told stories for all those years, Hoss, like that's the way I want to tell stories. If I can tell them on the pro radio or on the professional radio, I'm going to tell them on radio. And if I can tell them in a professional wrestling ring, I'm going to do it there too. So that's what I would say. I want people to know just how fortunate I am in a professional sense to be able to have found some success, just pursuing a lot of laughter.
I can totally relate to that, as honestly myself, I have never, I've never trained as a wrestler. I've never taken a bump.
Right.
I've never done anything of that nature, but, being able to come out here and talk with people like you and a lot of the wrestlers that I've gotten to interview and just people that I've gotten to meet through the wrestling world and everything, it's really been something special. So I can completely relate to what you were saying about that.
Is it? Well, it's incredible too, right? Because it's a 100-year arc of storytelling. There's there's no Shakespeare left outside of pro wrestling. We're talking 360 degrees of fandom that surrounds the ring, right? We're talking all-encompassing stories. We're talking characters that, and often gimmicks that are created by the individuals performing them. So what do you have? You have a connection to that idea that's stronger than anything can be written for anyone else. Like a really good swerve in the world of pro wrestling is as good as any story arc you see on your favorite television show. You know, and I'm not a big TV guy, Hoss. I don't know about you. But if we're able to get in front of individuals and tell stories to those individuals with performers that they can only not just see in person, but hear in person and feel in person. I'm very tactile. Touch them. Give them high fives. Tell them how you appreciate them. There is something so individually special as a whole for everyone. And I am a fan of being able to create that energy. I tell this story all the time, Hoss. It was our October program, or excuse me, it was our September episode. And we're doing this tournament. We're going to win the belt. It's a whole production. And our hometown hero is a guy named Hobo Hank. And he's fighting his lifelong friend, Mosh Pit Mike, because we love alliteration here in Duke City Championship Wrestling. And as they're fighting each other, Hoss, it's the main event. It's Hobo Hank comes out and 500 of his closest friends, because we're so very fortunate to draw a really loyal audience here in Albuquerque. As he comes out, they come to life. They scream, sing Mr. Bojangles. And Mosh Pit Mike and Hobo Hank, they fight. They fight for 20 minutes. And at the end of that 20 minutes, Hobo Hank comes out victorious. And Hobo Hank comes out victorious. And I'm the broadcaster. I'm the voice of the thing, right? This thing can't exist without my robe on it. So as I'm telling this story, there's 2 rows in front of me from my broadcast position, because we're not next to the ring. We have our own style. We're in a theater. 2 rows in front of me, there's this young adult, 8 years old, 9 years old, whatever, right? And she jumps out the top of her chair, Hoss. She jumps out the top of her chair with her dad in hand. And she's losing her top because Hobo Hank beat Mosh Pit Mike for a chance at a ladder match against the hated Turbo Tony for the inaugural Duke City Championship Wrestling belt. And that's a core memory. That's a core memory that would not exist for that kid. It's a core memory that would not exist for me if we weren't so very fortunate to be able to tell fabulous stories in front of an impassioned audience. And we have it here, man. It's so incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you know, I've been checking out several of your live streams online, and everything, and you really do get to cover a wide variety of sports. So as you cover the different sports, do you kind of have to have a different skill set for each to cover each sport? And which one is your favorite one to cover?
Great question. You're talking about 2 Men On, which is my radio show heard terrestrially here in Albuquerque, Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. Obviously, you can get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Also, if anyone in the fan base is interested, Chase at Talk ABQ. Talk ABQ is the name of my company. That's where we produce everything. And yeah, 100%, Hoss. Like I think all of sports is pro wrestling. You know, we're looking at the Shohei Ohtani stuff right now, right? Like, and we'll date ourselves on this because I don't know when people will come back and watch. But right now, it's what, March 26th. So when individuals come back and watch this, Shohei Ohtani's in trouble. His translator's been spending some of his money and probably illegally on some gambling. You have to be able to tell a factual story. You have to be able to say these are the things that happen, and then after you tell that factual story, Hoss, you have to be able to include jokes. You have to be able to make it relatable. You have to be able to make it entertaining to the audience. And I don't think that's so different from the world of pro wrestling. You want to tell people why to be excited. You want to tell people about the humor involved with it. But the thing that's about pro wrestling is the audience is right there. I see them react. I know what they're enjoying. I know what they're not. With wrestling, or excuse me, with radio, with talk radio, I'm talking to the abyss. Like there's no one in front of me laughing. There's no one responding. Like I have to have an idea of what people enjoy. And this is all super boring radio stuff. We get Nielsen ratings, we get feedback, right? We know where we sit in the market. We know what the value of our product is. It's not accidentally the number 1 rated sports talk show in town. It's not accidentally that. You know, me and my co-host have a rapport that is so special and important where we get out in front of people, but you have to do it by doing what? Like you said, Hoss, speaking a lot of different languages. You have to have a lot of different elevations. And if I were to explain it in a like your 5 situation, I would say Alexa has a lot of different volumes. I use different ones at different times. So yeah, daily talk radio, essence of pro wrestling, but a baseline different product. And I'm fortunate to have found some success in both of those things.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I do enjoy checking out your other show and everything. And so it's very interesting to watch. So if you're still back there, Luke, I don't want to take up all the time. So Luke, you want to unmute yourself there and ask a question that we can hear?
Got the high and tight camera. I like this right here.
Hey, it's working just fine here. And like I said, right now we've got Freddie Fame, the last professional promoter. Now, I'm going to go ahead here real quick, and this is something we normally don't do too often here on the program. But I want to tell you some of the comments that we've been getting here on the program tonight. And we're going to go from that right into this weekend's event. But some things we've got here, we've got a lot of people. Duke City Warriors has brought some great comments here. I had one from our good friend the Night Owl, because you're repping Cracker Barrel. Favorite meal?
At Cracker Barrel? Chicken and dumplings. Chicken and dumplings. It's not even close.
And I know full well that's why we get along so well, because we think a lot alike. And again, chicken and dumplings. And I got to tell you, I'm going to even take it a step farther. Chicken and dumplings, 3 sides, and at least one of the extra sides has to be more chicken and dumplings.
Yeah, that would in the hash brown, the hash brown casserole is so very good too. Mess with that for sure. Turkey Thursday is not accidentally Turkey Thursday, so if you're spending some time at the Barrel, but my favorite part is not even food, y'all. It's the country store. You already know. You know that for a fact. You were talking a little bit, Luke, about Duke City Warriors. That's my friend Angela, and Angela has been day oneer to Duke City Championship Wrestling. We made an announcement and she made a fan page. And I tell you what, she celebrates us in a way that's really special. We've had some conversations about bringing her into the fold on some stuff. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, there's a passion in pro wrestling fan that I wish I had for anything else in the whole world, because we are fortunate to have individuals like Angela with us.
All right. We've got another one from Brian. Herb Simmons versus Freddie Fame. Who would win?
Oh my God. What's the match is the question. Hey, is there a more I'm Fred Slow right now. Like there's no gimmick in this moment. There's no punchline. Is there a more knowledgeable, intelligent, invested individual than Herb Simmons? Herb Simmons in the world of pro wrestling is not on enough people's Rushmores when it comes to being a promoter. He's not on enough people's Rushmores when it comes to having a mind for the business. And how very fortunate Southern Illinois and the St. Louis area has been for so many years to have he creating product for their entertainment. He is the example for the class. And if I'm fortunate to even be in that sentence with him one time in my professional life, I've done a lot of things right, because he is the standard by which all others should be judged.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, again, Herb's been around for many, many years. And again, one of our broadcast colleagues, the one and only Dr. Drew Abenhouse from SICW, I believe they're going to have an event as well. He's mentioned your name several times as well. Now, what we're going to do here real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of change our screen here for just a minute. Okay. I want to go ahead here, and hopefully I can bring up this the way it's here. We want to talk about, of course, Duke City Championship Wrestling. Right here, here's the logo. You can make it a point to go online, Duke City Championship Wrestling. My question to you is this, Fred. I know we've talked about how DCCW came out of professional wrestling, and you and I have had conversations both on and off the air about what it took to make this promotion happen. What would you say is the greatest accomplishment that your promotion, DCCW, has made since its inception?
So New Mexico is a commission state the way that Missouri is, and I don't know if every individual that's a fan of pro wrestling kind of understands the dynamic behind all that. But there had been gatekeeping in the world of professional wrestling in New Mexico. There had been a moratorium on it, if I'm being honest. And it saddened your boy, Luke. It broke my heart. It broke my heart that the thing that I fell in love with so very young in the world, in St. Louis, Missouri, the thing you fell so very in love with so very young in St. Louis, Missouri, it wasn't being created here locally in Albuquerque, which is now where I reside with this fan base. So what we did was we jumped through all the hoops. And again, this is all super inside wrestling, but I'm a licensed promoter in the state of New Mexico. There's only like 2 of us. And the reason there's 2 of us is because I was the first one to do it again. So whenever we bring this thing back, we created a resurgence. You were talking a little bit about our first live show. So we do monthly reoccurring here in Albuquerque at the historic El Rey. It's lovely. It's beautiful. The building is part of the story itself. We went out to the Curry County Event Center. That's in Clovis. If you're not familiar with Clovis, New Mexico, that's okay. You shouldn't be necessarily unless you've been in the Air Force. So we have a show on Thursday. We go out to Clovis. We have a show on Saturday. The following Saturday, and those dates might not be perfect, but another promotion starts up in Albuquerque. Like we've ignited the flame, a rising tide, right? So for a course of 6, 7, 8 years, there were 0 pro wrestling shows in the state of New Mexico, except for the times that WWE passed through town going from Phoenix to Dallas for house shows. We had 3 professional, 3 promoted and licensed events in the course of 1 week in the state of New Mexico.
Wow.
And I tell you what, Luke, I'm proud that we started that. I'm proud that the resurgence is part of a vision that we had as a group. Our ownership group is 4 individuals. They're all great. That's the thing I'm most proud of, is that pro wrestling exists again in the Southwest and the state of New Mexico, because Duke City Championship Wrestling was willing to get weird. And we have tried so very hard, my man.
Oh, and I get you completely. I mean, again, for those that don't know, and again, kind of pulling that curtain back a little bit, as I said earlier on in the introduction, Fred and I have known each other for a long time.
Man.
It was one of those where, I mean, we can go back and just kind of show you how long Fred and I have known each other. You go back to promotions like Wrestling Invades America.
Yep.
Which actually became Wrestling Over Everything.
Right.
We've called Dynamo Pro Wrestling. And then we had this time where Fred's traveling the world. And now to see the success that Duke City Championship Wrestling has had. And I mean, if you get a chance, go to their social media, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, go to their YouTube channel and see what they're doing in the Southwest. See the events they're putting on. And we're going to sit here in just a minute, Fred. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully I can get this to function correctly for us.
Yeah,
but I want to go ahead and I'm going to try to see what I can do here. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to present some things here. We have an event this coming Saturday night at the historic El Rey Theater.
Thursday night. Don't tell me long.
Like I said, it's 2 days from now. Like I said, My days are all running together as of late. But some of the people that we're going to be talking about here are former guests of the show.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the things that you're going to look at here as you look at this lineup. There are wrestlers, for those that are here in the Midwest, that they have seen here before.
Correct.
There are some wrestlers that you're going to have an opportunity that you may have seen if you're in California or if you're in Arizona or you're in Nevada. You're going to see wrestlers from that part of the country. DCCW, Duke City Championship Wrestling, brings wrestlers from everywhere. And right off the bat, this one interests me. And I want to go ahead here and bring this slide up.
Yeah.
This first matchup, a Texas bull rope match.
Correct.
Between Huey Martinez, a man who everybody knows is double tough. I mean, you look at hardcore wrestling, you look at a man who won't say quit, taking on Turbo Tony in a Texas bull rope match at March to Victory. Now, Fred, I want you to level with our viewers because we've had Huey Martinez on the program.
Yeah.
I've heard stories about Turbo Tony. How does a match between two gentlemen get to a point where they need to be combined or be hooked at the wrists by a bull rope? How does this come into existence?
Interesting to me how you think the word gentleman applies to both of those contenders. That's interesting to me.
Fred, let's look at it this way. I, like yourself, as we all know from the late Bobby Heenan, we are broadcast journalists. We don't want to cross either of the two of those guys because we could wind up in a permanent state of traction if we said the wrong thing.
Not untrue. Keep in mind everything I'm about to give you with Duke City Championship Wrestling. It is a family-friendly product. I want to be very clear on that. The world of hardcore wrestling does not exist in Duke City Championship Wrestling because that's not the pro wrestling that I grew up with, and that's the sole reason. I think it's important that it's all ages. With that said, Chuy Martinez is known around this country as a dude who can do it as hard as any dudes do it. And he's done that. He does it in Amarillo regularly, where I don't know how we're going here, but that runs a promotion, a really successful one in Amarillo. And the history, the Funks, the history there. If you were to look at pro wrestling in the West, the spider web that shoots off of Amarillo, it hits everywhere. That's the simplest way to put this thing. Also, they have the coolest WrestlePlex, but we're not putting over Amarillo right now. We're putting over Duke City Championship Wrestling. Chuy Martinez and Turbo Tony, who wrestles as just a white meat baby face for us. He had the best face turn. He was our first attempt at a face turn in Duke City Championship Wrestling. We pulled it off really well at the time. If you want to go back and find that excitement, it's the ladder match from October of last year. With that said, these two cats have been going back and forth for months. This is a culmination of two dudes just battling for legitimacy, right? And they're kind of our two biggest lone wolves in this thing. We got some fun factions in Duke City Championship Wrestling, and these are the two guys that haven't necessarily settled in a home with anyone else. And in their first interaction, there's a spot, and in the spot, like a belt is removed, and they're using it on each other, and there's some tying and restraining, and there's a whole lot of storytelling in the ring, right? Then they have to go again, and the belt resurfaces, and if you're going to keep upgrading, you're going to go from belt, you're going to go to strap. No, let's go bull rope. Let's go bull rope. Let these two dudes fight at, I think it's a 10-foot length. If that's not right, it might be lying.
It's somewhere in the neighborhood. Yeah, I could see that.
But as these two cats are going to go at each other, you got to touch all four corners, right? You got to get around the world on this thing. And the first competitor to do that, and how do you do that? You have to incapacitate, or you have to submit the guy to such a degree that you can bring him with you to these rings. And we don't have the biggest ring in the world. We have a 16 by 16, right? And that's by design, because the historic El Rey Theater is intimate. It's small. It's wrestling at the Chase. I don't know another way to describe that to people. If we were to put an 18-footer in there, we'd have 40 less seats. Like we can't do it. It's a 16-foot venue. That rope is going to be half of that. That's what I'm trying to explain to people. Like diagonally, that's 32 feet. That's a long A way. And these two dudes are going to go at each other. So look for them to battle, and look for Chewy Martinez, because obviously when you add outside elements into a match, he's the guy who's going to have the advantage. Always am I pulling for Turbo Tony. Always am I pulling alongside the Duke City Championship Wrestling fan base for but he's going to have a knot on his hand with Chewy Martinez in that bull rope match. I promise you.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Fred. Now, Hardcore Hoss, I know you're getting ready to come back on here in a second. And as a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and pull him back in here momentarily. He's back. He's in the house here. Now, Hardcore Hoss, I know for a fact that when we had Chewy Martinez on the program, you had I believe, just joined the program. I got to ask you right now, you have an opportunity to see professional wrestling. Fred's talking about the Southwest. I can talk about the Midwest. You talk about the Mid-Atlantic area, the West Virginias, the Marylands, the Carolinas. What do you think is going to make this bull rope match stand out? You've seen a lot of matches over your career being a fan of professional wrestling. What do you expect to see this Thursday night in the bull rope match?
I just look for it to be an interesting match, and it's just whenever you get a chance to see a match like that, it's just always something special to watch. And to see two men put it on the line the way that, that they do in matches like that is just something interesting to really sit down and watch, and it's always seems funny to me, everybody always says, oh, well, it's all fake, right? Well, tell me the welt that they're going to get before the match is over. Tell me that's fake, and it's just something to really get to watch a match like that.
Well, and there's a simplicity to it too, Hoss. Like you're so very correct, right? And there's a juxtaposition to storytelling. Like you want an aspect that's relatable to everyone involved. Chewy Martinez, that's a big boy. Chewy Martinez, that's a big bad man. You can physically look at him, he's a bad dude. He does bad things. Turbo Tony, that's a fit dude. That's a good looking dude. That dude's Derek Jeter colored. Like that dude is perfect in every way that you look at a professional athlete. You're like, oh, there's some athleticism there. There's a cat who can really go in the world of pro wrestling. And you're going to see both those guys take advantage of those physiques, take advantage of those approaches to the match. So you're going to get all those highlights in one. You're going to get all aspects of storytelling in one story. Thank you, Chewy Martinez. Thank you, Turbo Tony, for being willing to get out in front of what is going to be a packed house at the El Rey. We usually rake, I don't know, not to be those guys, but our door is around 500 people, a little bit heavier. And they're going to love it. And they're going to go tell two friends. And I'm going to say, those are two friends who missed out on the best bull match they ever saw. That's what I'm going to tell them.
And as you said right here, I got to put it out there. Will it have a cowbell?
Well, now I'm going to go get one.
And again, when you look at professional wrestling, I mean, again, this is just one of the great matches you're going to see at Duke City Championship Wrestling this Thursday. Yeah. Now, the next match we're going to look at here is going to be one that I've heard the names, and you're going to be able, because again, you are the last professional promoter. We're going to talk about women's action. We're going to talk about a triple threat women's match. And I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't had a chance in Eliza and Adrian's case, I haven't had a chance to see a lot of their in-ring competition. Mm-hmm. But I've heard and I've seen Lilith Grimm. And I'm going to tell you right now, she is a woman that I would not want to cross. She is going to go out there and she is going to put pain, blues, and agony on anybody that she steps in the ring with. And again, can you give us a little bit of what we're going to expect this Thursday night at the El Rey when we see these three ladies climb inside the squared circle?
Yeah, in every month is a continuation of a story at Duke City Championship Wrestling, right? So every month we're trying to take what we did from before and we're trying to build on it or knock it completely down. We're trying to do one of the two. And Lilith and Adrian, they tore the house down last month with Natalia Markova. And she's what? She's in the NWA. She's a world of talent. And she can really go in the world of pro wrestling. And those three ladies went out there and Markova pulled it off. Markova was the champ over the two, and I know Grimm and Adrian. And if you don't know Adrian, she's fairly new to the game, so not 1 year in the mix has she been, but the splash she has made has more ripples than some splashes you've seen from people who've been around a long time. And Lilith Grimm, famed from AEW, and she's done a bunch of stuff elsewhere. Eliza Hayes stepping in. Eliza Hayes has won championships in Atlanta and Florida and the Carolinas, and Eliza Hayes can show up and win a match against anyone. And I promise you, she can win a match against two people whenever they're distracted with each other and that holdover from the month before, right? So we're going to put these three gals in the ring at our last match, and our last match was a banger. That was Brian Idol versus Hobo Hank. Our last match was as good as it got. The NWA was in the house. Billy Corgan is watching the program, and he's saying, those cats are pretty good over there. And that three-way, that's what stole the show. It wasn't the signature event. It wasn't the spotlight that we were trying to create. It was the talent, and it was the personalities, and it was the storytelling of they. Look for a continuation of that. If you enjoyed anything about Duke City Championship Wrestling and that fun three-way match we had with the ladies a month ago, this one is going to be that and possibly so much more as not only we brought back pro wrestling, we brought back women's pro wrestling to New Mexico. So we're very impressed by they, and we're so excited to have them in the ring.
Well, you know something, Fred, again, that's one of the things that I've seen with Duke City Championship Wrestling. You have a little something for everybody.
Yeah.
You want to go out there, you want to see the high flyers, you want to see the power wrestlers, you want to see the women's wrestlers, you want to see the tag team wrestlers, you want to see it, make it a point, Duke City Championship Wrestling. Now, I'm going to level with you, Fred. You and I have been up and down many roads together.
Yes.
We've seen many people. I'm going to pull up this next match graphic.
I already know where you're going.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this man, you're talking about Chewy and Turbo Tony and how they were two completely different professional wrestling entities. This one right here that we're going to pull up here on the screen.
Yeah.
Chris Watson and Fonzie.
Yes.
Fonzie, when I saw this, and again, for those that are watching the Wrestle Talk podcast, Fonzie just out and out looks like someone that I would see in my worst nightmare.
Correct.
And Chris Watson looks at one of these guys. Just looking at it right now, he reminds me of a lot in a physical structure of one Petey Williams.
Okay, I like where you're going.
But when you sit here and you look at this, these two men look like they are, without question, the complete and polar opposites. Can you tell us a little bit about both of these men? Fonzie, like I said, there's got to be a story. There's got to be something behind him because just from the look, and we all talk about in pro wrestling that people have the look.
Right.
Fonzie has a look, and it's downright scary. Yeah. Give us a little bit about this match here, Fred, because I know for the viewers, a couple of these names may not initially be familiar, but they're definitely going to remember.
I'll tell you this about Fonzie, fan favorite, brother. Like you look at Fonzie and you would go, this guy's out there. This guy's a space cadet. This guy brushes his hair with a rock. Like these are all things you would say. He comes out, crowd comes to life. We put him in the first match of the show. They're going to follow that momentum all day. We put them right after the intermission. They're going to take it into the second half. I put Fonzie in the main event. The fire marshal's going to shut us down. Like, that's the fandom of Fonzie. I was out at dinner the other night, right? I got me and my lady are out at the Benihana, the Japanese grill thing. You know what I'm talking about. They do it around in front of you. So we're at that. And this family comes up to me. It's a family of 4. And it's a mom and a dad and a couple kids in the real cute family. So they come in, they go, "Hey, you're fed slow." And I'm like, "Yeah, like from what though? You know, I don't know where they're like, "From Duke City Championship Wrestling." I'm like, "Yeah, 100%. And they're like, "Hey, love the show, love the product. Don't want to interrupt your dinner. But we just had to ask." And I'm like, "Oh, maybe it's tickets, you know, maybe they want to be a part of the thing." You know, there's like you kind of go into promoter mode, you know, like what can I do to keep the friends of Duke City Championship Wrestling in a positive energy? They lean in and the dad leans in and he goes, "Is it true Fonzie sleeps in a graveyard?"
Oh my.
I go, "Yeah, brother. Yes, it's super true." Oh man, you're gonna work at the Japanese restaurant, and I can't handle it, and I'm laughing so hard on the inside, but like they're there with it. You know what I mean? They're 100% there, and they're like, "Hey, because you know if he needs a place to stay." No, he does not need a place to stay. Like he's that good. Chris Watson, who also wrestles babyface for us, he's a heel in a lot of places. He goes in Texas. He wrestles in El Paso. He wrestles in Lubbock. He wrestles in Amarillo. He goes heel pretty regularly out there. He goes babyface for us. He's all American. I mean, he was all American in high school in like 4 different sports. He's a former corrections officer. He's also got a real mind for the business. And if individuals haven't seen Chris Watson perform, you're going to love him. You made a good Petey Williams reference. I'm going to tell you what, late 90s Owen Hart is where his energy's at. This cat looks the part, moves the way, charismatic on the mic. He understands entrances. He understands being photo ready and TV ready. Also, and this is, I don't know if this is on your radar or not, we're doing Cinco de Slamo in Las Cruces. We're doing a Cinco de Mayo show, completely luchador based. Chris Watson's going to perform there. You know, Chris Watson is going to help book that show. Chris Watson knows all the best talent in Juarez and all the best talent in El Paso. And when those guys come over to Las Cruces to perform in front of a sold-out Amador Live, which will probably be 2,500 people, if we're being honest, that's because Chris Watson helped us put it together. So he's not just a performer, he's a mind for the game. And you're going to watch, you're probably going to watch him run from Fonzie's weird ass for a while. But then at the end of it, they're going to have wrestled really well, and you're going to have cheered for both guys along the way. And there's an art to having face-on-face wrestling, and we're going to try to perfect it on Thursday night at the El Rey.
And to give you an idea, if you want to know more about Duke City Championship Wrestling, you're talking about videos, talking about seeing what's going on, right here, youtube.com at DCCDub. Make it a point to go out there, check it out. Again, a lot of great wrestling action. You can see lots of great things from the El Rey. And again, a lot of great action each and every time you turn on the wonderful world of YouTube. Now, I'm going to level with you. We're going to go ahead. We got a couple more matches to talk about here. But one that a lot of our viewers are going to know a lot about, and I know as soon as I put this graphic up here, Hardcore Hoss, even though he's from the Mid-Atlantic,
yeah,
you're going to know who we're talking about. And that's right here. Tyler Copeland against Kendall Beck. Now, these two men are no strangers to one another. I know for a fact Tyler Copeland has made a very huge statement in a very short time in Duke City Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Kendall Beck is looking to make a statement. He is very quickly becoming one of the fastest rising stars in the Midwest.
100%.
And this matchup that we're going to see this Thursday night in Albuquerque, New Mexico, as I'm wearing my Cubs hat,
right,
I got my hat tee on this
opening night.
Because this match right here is going to be, and I'm going to level with you. I've seen stuff on the YouTube. I think this is going to steal the show this Thursday night.
Very well could, right? And, you know, there's a longer story here. You know, you talked about your and I's rich history in the world of pro wrestling in St. Louis, Missouri, and that history that's entwined with Tyler Copeland. You know, Tyler Copeland, not just a friend of ours, a legitimate friend of ours, excellent performer, excellent professional. And whenever I started Duke City Championship Wrestling, and I do a little bit of booking. You know, I do a little bit of booking. I said to Joe Singer, who performs as Hobo Hank business partner, I said, hey, the only thing I want to make sure we do is we include Tyler Copeland. I owe Tyler Copeland. Tyler Copeland gave me an opportunity when no one else was given opportunities to me in this world. Tyler Copeland comes out, and I think Tyler Copeland's going to be my champion, man. I think Tyler Copeland's going to come out here and say, hey, everyone, you should love Fred Slow. Fred Slow's the man. He's from my hometown. Like, we have this relationship. We can go. Tyler Copeland came out, and Tyler Copeland said, forget Fred Slow. Tyler Copeland, in front of 500 people at the historic El Rey Theater, got on a microphone and said, hey, Albuquerque full of failures? Because I see a failure right there in Fred Slow. And it hurts me, boys. Puts the knife in me. He hurts me. And he gets beat up. He gets beat up a lot by a lot of guys. And he keeps doing real cowardly things. And he keeps doing real dastardly things. And he keeps coming back to town. So he has to fight Tommy Test. 2 scoops. Tommy Test, 2 scoops. He has to fight him last month in a street fight. A Burke street fight. He has got to fight him. Got to beat him up. He doesn't. Tommy Test whoops him. Tyler Copeland won't go away. So Kendall Beck says, I got to help my friend. My friend's off the beaten path. And what do you do, boys, when your friend's off the beaten path? You go to him. You go to your friend. And he reached out to Tyler Copeland. He said, Tyler, come back to St. Louis. Let me help you, my brother. Let me do this thing. Tyler said, 1, you can stop talking to me. You can stop talking to me forever. You can come to Albuquerque and fight me. And Kendall said, well, the only way I can get you to get back right is to make sure you're wrong for a couple minutes. I'm going to come out there and do that. So Kendall Beck's making his DCCW debut, boys. He's coming out to Albuquerque. He's going to fight his longtime friend, Tyler Copeland, in front of 500 strangers to Kendall Beck and 500 jeerers to Tyler Copeland. And hopefully Tyler Beck puts him in his place and he fixes them. And the 3 of us can go out and try to find toasted ravioli somewhere in this Southwest town. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Fred, I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody's ever had the opportunity, and I had an opportunity a couple years ago to the greater Santa Fe, Albuquerque area.
Yeah, beautiful.
When you ran in the airport, until you get to Albuquerque, minus about maybe, 15 minutes, there's nothing. You don't have a gas station. You don't have street lights. You don't have anything. When you're drinking.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah. I live adjacent to the Albuquerque airport. This by design. I travel a lot. But, I mean, this is a big-ass city down here. We got 1 million people. It's not St. Louis. It's not 2.5 million. But we got 1 million people. And it's a wild city, but we don't have no Midwest food. We don't have pork steaks. We don't have frozen custard. We don't have emos. We're 3 Midwest boys lost in the Southwest trying to eat green chili and not get sick.
Well, okay. Well, I got one more question for you, but I'm gonna leave this one right here because it's gonna be at the end of the interview because you just brought it up and it's a discussion that several mutual friends of ours have had. But I want to go ahead here and Hardcore Hoss, I want to bring up this graphic. You've been to a lot of wrestling action, WDWA, ATCW, among others. This tag team match that Duke City's bringing forward this Thursday night. Looking at what's here, and again, Fred, I know I'm gonna mess these up. We have Plet and Valek. Alec Vile taking on Enrique El Gato and Mr. Happy. Now, I'm going to ask Hardcore Hoss, when you look at this, Hoss, just from your eyesight, what do you expect to see in this matchup Thursday night?
It looks like it's going to be a very fun matchup to watch. Just looking at the competitors in that picture and everything, it looks like it's really going to be a good match and a really fun match to watch. So,
okay, well, Fred, I gotta level with you, and I'm gonna bring this back up one more time here.
Yep.
When I look at Vile, I look at somebody that I would see in I want to say one of those old Western movies that you would see the bad guy.
You're very correct. Very.
And when you have Plex, you see somebody who's very cutting edge. Again, it's a name that a lot of people in the St. Louis area might know with all the flashing lights and whatnot. Reminds me a lot of a Justin Dier with just the presentation here. Then you look at Enrique Delgado and Mr. Happy. And I'm going to tell you right now, these two men, I think, are going to surprise a lot of people this Thursday. I really do. Your thoughts, Fred?
Yeah, you're not wrong, right? You're not wrong in a lot of ways. I'm going to tell you what you're right about, though, and it's Hoss as well, is you think you're going to be, seeing something exciting in the ring. You're going to be seeing something exciting all over the building. Because these guys come out and it's 2-on-2. It's tag team wrestling, right? So you're driven in. But Jay Sizzle, who's the manager, not even advertised for Plex on the card, he always has a presence outside the ring. So Mr. Happy and Enrique, they have to do something. Like, they can't go out there unprotected, right? So you're not going to just be able to have your focus on in-ring action. You're going to have it in everything that surrounds. Enrique and Mr. Happy are wild. So these two dudes are loved by every 13-year-old kid in the building. Enrique, he looks like one physically. He gets up. He does the stuff off the top rope. He's the definition of what every 13-year-old kid thinks a pro wrestler should be. Mr. Happy, who's only been in the game a handful of years, Mr. Happy is committed to the game. You see, how many guys are wrestling in face paint today? And the answer is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Happy comes out, puts on a show, never shows emotion that isn't over-exaggerated because he has to. He's put an encumbrance on himself. And Valak Vile, who's more entrant than wrestler, if you ask me, Valak Vile is going to go out and going to try to get creative and cute with the help of Jay Sizzle. And Mexplex is wild because he comes down from Pueblo, and you guys don't get this, but coming down from Pueblo, Colorado is like, what's a good example? What is a good Midwest example? If a guy from Cape Girardeau came up to St. Louis and told you Cape Girardeau was better, it's not. It's just not. And whenever these four guys beat the crap out of each other, and they will, you know it's not going to end clean. You know there's no way. So you're not watching for like a messy match. You're watching for a dusty finish to that messy match. And that's what you're going to get. If it were up to me, we open the show with these guys. If it were up to me, I put the four of them out there to start it, and I make the crowd upset if they showed up late, because these dudes can go, and they are tone setters, and you're going to, at the very end, have been very pro wrestling entertained.
Well, you know something I'm going to put right here, and again, one of our great viewers here, again, Duke City Warriors bring out their that when it comes down to professional wrestling, and again, Duke City Championship Wrestling brings that. Now, one thing that I want to bring up here before we bring up this last graphic for the event this coming Thursday is two men that are very well known in the promotion. You have Hobo Hank and Devin Reno. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Fred, but as you said, Hobo Hank, his goal, just like everybody else, wants to be the Duke City champion.
Correct.
And Devin Reno, from what I've seen, is wanting to make a statement.
So,
statement is Hobo Hank.
Yeah, and it's his inaugural run, right? Because we're talking about Devin Reno, who performed for Phase 1 Pro Wrestling just last month, just days after our Duke City Championship Wrestling event. Like, is it a slap in Duke City Championship Wrestling's face that he's performing with Phase 1 across town? Because I went to the Phase 1 event. I saw Devin. I didn't know Devin was coming to Duke City Championship Wrestling. I didn't know that Matthew Robles and the MK Army had that kind of reach after they brought in Jacob Fatu in January, after they brought in Brian Idol in February. Now you're going to bring in Devin Reno, and you're like, Fred, who's Devin Reno? He's the guy you don't know about yet. He's the guy who's so bad and hard that when you do finally figure out about it, you're going to be upset that you didn't know first. And Hobo Hank just keeps going through this gauntlet. It's wild to me. He gets cheated out of the championship in October at the ladder match, which was the craziest thing of all time with Thunder and his theatrics. Also, Thunder not advertised on this promotion right now. Thunder will be present. Thunder's going to be at the show on Thursday. Who's he going to fight? We'll find out. I know that belt gets defended every show. So Hobo Hank, another one. Devin Reno, is he one in the story of Hobo Hank, or is this the start of Devin Reno's story in Duke City Championship Wrestling? You know, if you're in the ring with Hobo Hank, you're getting the Duke City Championship Wrestling rub. Like, we don't accidentally put you in the ring with Hobo Hank. Everyone who's fought Hobo Hank has fought Hobo Hank. Hobo Hank's been on Vice. Hobo Hank has been all over this world of pro wrestling. Hobo Hank, just this week, nominated after his 27 years of professional wrestling experience for the Mexico Sports Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. I had seen that. You know something, Fred? To put it this way, a lot of people would say that Hobo Hank is the measuring stick, not just of Duke City Championship Wrestling, but pro wrestling in the Southwest.
Oh, I agree.
I would say in the western part of the country, because he's a man who's consistently competed against the best talent. And like you said, if Devin Reno wants to be in that title picture, he has to defeat Hobo Hank this Thursday night. It's just simple.
Yeah, and then he's got to get smartened up, right? Because if you're going to work with Matthew Robles and Thunder, and you know what they're doing with the title right now, the way they're protecting it, Devin Reno's got to make decisions for himself. I don't know, Mo. Like I said, Phase 1. Phase 1's a great promotion. He's going to win a lot of matches over in Phase 1. Come to Duke City Championship Wrestling, Go against Hobo Hank. I mean, I'm not saying you will, but I'm not saying you won't. And I am saying, as far as pro wrestlers go in the state of New Mexico, a lot of New Mexicans will claim Eddie Guerrero. A lot of them will. He went to New Mexico Highlands University. I get that they should claim him. El Paso claims Eddie Guerrero. The greatest pro wrestler in the history of New Mexico is Hobo Hank. And if you say otherwise, it's because you don't know well. And Devin Reno is coming over from Phoenix to fight the greatest wrestler in the history of the state. Welcome to the big show, friend. You're going to do really well. And when he loses to Hobo Hank, because I'm telling you, he's going to lose to Hobo Hank. He's going to lose to Hobo Hank, and he's going to go back to Phoenix, and Matthew Robles is never going to call him again. Make right decisions, Devin, with Duke City Championship Wrestling. Make right decisions.
Well, you know something, Fred, and I'm going to level with you.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever shared this with you.
I'm ready.
Had an opportunity this past couple years ago, had an opportunity to go to the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion.
That's a cool thing.
That is very much so. And again, for anybody, if we talked about it, last week in our production meeting. If you ever get a chance, I believe it's the 19th through 21st, I believe, in Las Vegas to get an opportunity, cauliflowerclub.org. But I had an opportunity after him being on our program to see Mr. Robles.
He's wild.
And the way, and he lives that jet setter lifestyle. He does.
Yeah. He was on CNN today.
I know.
He's crazy.
You see him on CNN, and then you're going to turn around in less than 48 hours, you're going to see him inside Duke City Championship Wrestling's ring. That shows you exactly what's up.
And then 48 hours from them, he's going to be in the broadcast booth for the University of Utah producing Utah football. Like, he's an unreal mind. And if he would just do anything right, if he would just have any energy about this thing, he's a wild contributor to it. But that's all he is a contributor. He don't perform in the ring. He don't go out, he don't win no matches. He brought his wife, decided to beat her up for some reason. I go, what? All the people in the building? You're gonna beat up your wife? This is wild to me. Like, he's an interesting wild dude. And when you were at the convention, how revered was he amongst the others?
That's one of those where when people came around him, it was kind of like that great big network. Some people say the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon syndrome.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody seemed to know him. Everybody seemed to know him.
He's married to Missy Hyatt. That's no joke. Like, you're doing something right in life.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that's one of those. That's history right there.
Yeah,
I think as some of the people would say, that's the mic drop moment.
Hey, here's a little inside pro wrestling. Everything's completely shoot right here. I go to the Royal Rumble. It's in Florida. I want to meet Brian Idol. Right, Brian Idol works for the NWA. He does a bunch of booking stuff. He's more than just a performer. Let's leave it at that. I know that because I know the industry. So I go to a show he's on. I say, hey, Brian, my name's Fred Slow, Duke City Championship Wrestling. He's like, yeah, I know all about Duke City Championship Wrestling. I'm like, oh. He's like, Jacob Fatu came out for you guys. I'm like, yeah, Jacob Fatu did great. He was tremendous. He goes, Matthew Robles makes that thing go around. I go, yeah, both those things are very accurate. You know, the legitimacy of I don't have to introduce my product to people. I don't have to introduce my product to the NWA because Matthew Robles is a part of my product. Like, wild clout, wild validity, because he lends his stamp of approval and his talent and his creative and all those things associated with him to Duke City Championship Wrestling. Dude's incredible. And the kindness he's given me and the organization is beyond what we deserve, specifically at this point and maybe ever.
You know something, Fred? I'm gonna tell you one thing. And this is our friendship here, but it's the honest truth. When you talk about putting stamps on things,
yeah,
I will tell you right now, whether it's Freddie Fame, the last professional promoter,
right,
whether it's Fred Slow, whenever you look at it, if this man puts his stamp on a professional wrestling promotion, you know it's a hot ticket. You know it's something you're going to enjoy. You know it's something that you are going to absolutely love. And I know if you're in the greater Albuquerque area, this coming Thursday night at the El Rey Theater,
yeah,
make it a point, buy your tickets, show up early. You're going to have a great night of professional wrestling action. You're not going to be disappointed. And Fred, before we go any farther, For those that want to buy tickets, those that are watching our program here tonight from the great area out in the southwestern part of the country, and who knows, you might get somebody from Maine or Alaska that wants to make the journey in the next 2 days to come down to Albuquerque, New Mexico. How can they get tickets to be a part of Duke City Championship Wrestling this Thursday night?
Great question. And it's dccwtickets.com. And dccwtickets.com takes us to our ticket partner, which is Hold My Ticket. Here's the thing, though, Luke, and we're so fortunate. I don't necessarily hear this from a lot of independent promotions. We sell out. Every seat will sell. We've sold every seat of every show we've ever done. It's wild. Those individuals from Alaska and those individuals from Maine and those individuals in the St. Louis metro area and all around the world, because I know how your audience hits. The thing that really helps the most is at DCC Dub. You go to YouTube, you go to at DCC Dub, hit subscribe. That's the biggest deal to us because that gets us in front of so many people. I don't know what our subscriber number is at now, but we're almost at verified. We're not a year old. So we're trying so very hard. But youtube.com/@DCCDub. If you are in the Albuquerque region and you're interested in messing around and coming to what I would tell you is one of the funnest live pro wrestling events you can come to, DCCWtickets.com. Also, if you're like, Fred, I can't make it by Thursday. That's in 2 days. We go monthly. We'll have a show in April. We'll have a show in May. We'll have a show in June. July, August, September, October, November. Yeah. We're going to tell stories all year long. We will have 16 signature events this year, Luke, across the state of New Mexico, plus 11 straight days at the New Mexico State Fair.
Wow, that is impressive, Fred. And you know something? Before we get too much farther along, I want to throw something out here. You talked about him earlier, and I got to say, Herb Simmons, right on point, right here.
Oh, there's the standard right there.
That's exactly what it's there.
Yeah.
Sellouts mean you're doing something right. And again, when you look at professional wrestling, that's just as simple as that. Now, Fred, I know you're a busy man, but I also know you're a very educated man.
Well, I got one degree.
Well, I know you're a very educated man in the world of professional wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Now, you talk about putting your stamp on professional wrestling. You talk about putting your stamp on broadcast media. I'm going to level with you.
Yep.
There's a certain individual, and I'm not going to mention any names, but he's kind of the other one of us on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Who has openly said that as great of a knowledgeable mind as you are, he's not a little bit better. He's a lot better.
I like that.
And he wants to pose you a challenge.
Oh, I'm ready.
And that is tonight, right here, as you know, being a member of the Wrestle Talk family.
Right.
We have something called the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
I'm familiar with it.
Are you ready to stand up for everything that is truth, justice, and the DCC Dub way to compete tonight against our own Hardcore Hoss?
This is when the fan base is going to find out this whole thing's been a work. Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
Alrighty, Hardcore Hoss, are you ready?
I don't remember saying those exact words that you were saying, Luke, but I guess I'm ready. I may have to talk to the producers and see who lined this thing up, but hey.
Well, you know something right now, guys? I'm going to tell you right now. We've got a comment here from Fred Slow. He's hyping up the main event of tonight. And just when we think we've got everything done and dealt with, just when I think everything's great, a man from the Mid-Atlantic, a man from the West, a man from Middle America. And look who had the party. I was feeling so good. I hadn't seen him all night. And when we're going to celebrate a great night of professional wrestling, and he has to make an appearance. But you know what? We're past that. We're done with that. It's time for the main event. It's time for the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. So let me go ahead here real quick. And I'm going to go ahead just to make sure here. And I'm going to hit the music for tonight's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
I can also acapella it if you want me to.
We may have to here because the technology is not going to cooperate. And trust me, you don't want to hear me sing. I know that's something you don't want to hear with me. And you know what? This is not cool. Everything is going so smooth. The snitch shows up, and now nothing wants to work. I see how it is.
Why you got to blame it on the snitch?
It is the snitch. It's that simple. He shows up and things go amiss. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and move forward. If the entrance music doesn't work, that's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's kind of the schedule for the best 2 out of 3 falls. Tonight's competitors are the one, the only from Albuquerque, New Mexico, the Albuquerque's native son, Fred Slow, taking on the one and only Hardcore Hoss. Now, gentlemen, you know the rules. In just a minute, I'm going to give you information about 3 professional wrestlers related around a particular wrestling topic. When you think you know the answer, shout out your answer. The first one to win 2 out of 3 falls is tonight's Game Show Challenge winner.
All right, I'm not nervous. You're nervous, Hoss. Here we go.
All right. Considering the fact that we are very close to WrestleMania season.
Oh, I didn't watch Raw last night. Oh, no. Okay.
Tonight's category for the Game Show Challenge is WrestleMania birthdays.
Ooh, okay.
These 3 individuals will celebrate a birthday over WrestleMania weekend. Freddie Fame, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hardcore Hoss, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number 1. This individual is a late member of the WWF roster. His birthday would have been celebrated on April 6th. Many wrestling fans today know him for being at the top of the bloodline. Please name the original person of the Samoan dynasty.
Oh, man.
Peter Maivia?
No.
Hardcore Hoss pulling out an answer here. The High Chief, Peter Maivia, is correct.
There we
Hardcore
go.
Hoss taking the first fall.
Okay.
I got to tell you, Fred, I did not expect Hardcore Hoss to take the first fall from you that quickly.
I didn't. Well, Maivia threw me. I thought it was going to be a Fatu name for sure. So I'm feeling embarrassed. I'm ready. I gotta make the comeback. Let's get to the rubber match.
All right, the second fall, gentlemen. Here we go. This former WWF WWE competitor celebrates a birthday on April 7th. Many people know him from his time at the commentary booth. Some know him for his relationship with Jennifer Hudson. Name him.
Oh, it's Coach. Not Coach. Byron Saxton.
No.
Oh, I blew it.
Jerry Lawler?
No.
Jennifer Hudson. That's the singer.
Mm-hmm.
And she went with someone at the commentary booth, is what I'm understanding here.
Correct.
And I don't read Twitter and stuff, so I don't know all this like outside. Jennifer Hudson went with I feel like I should just run announcer names. Went with
I'll give you one more clue.
Yeah, it's gonna be Mike Adams.
Are D.O.
The initials are D.O.
D.O.
Oh boy, the big boy, the big cat. What was his name? Oh, what's the big cat's name? The big dude. What's that big cat's name? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
You almost said it, Fred.
It's not Otero. It's not Otero. It's something else.
No, you're real close.
What's that big cat's name? He's in Nexus. What's this cat's name?
I think this is a good guy. I'm trying to figure out.
That's a super Haas. You know it. It's a super good looking black dude. What is this dude's name? He beat up CM Punk one time. It was a thing.
I'm going to go ahead and call time. You were all around the answer, Fred. The answer was David Otunga.
I blew it. I thought I had it. I was late.
That's all right. We're going to go ahead and give you a follow-up question here.
Good. I'm going to tie it up.
You're going to tie it up right now. This late WWF performer was known for his time in the NFL and his time as a member of the Legion of Doom.
Oh, Animal?
In the WWF.
In the NFL.
He was also known for throwing up on a Monday Night Football game. Name him.
Not Perry. Not former NFLer. There's a whole bunch of them.
Listen to the clue. He threw up on the football on a Monday Night Football game. He played for the Denver Broncos.
No, I should know this one.
He went by the ring name of Puke.
I don't have it, and I feel bad because I feel like I should.
He suffered a career-ending injury at the hands of D'Lo Brown.
What is his name? I know exactly what he looks like. He had a terrible haircut. It was a big super cut dude. Big ass white dude. I don't know his name though.
Boss, do you want to chime in here?
I don't know.
The answer, Darren Drozdoff.
Oh, Droz. That's so stupid. That's the stupidest game. I hate this game.
Now, I do have another backup question.
Good, I need it.
This individual spent a great amount of time in TNA as a part of the X division.
Got it.
He was known as the original player from the Himalaya. Now he is, I believe, an agent in the WWE.
You know, I watch zero of TNA. Like, I don't like the only guy from the X division I know is AJ Styles, who's not an agent. So, Hurricane Helms is like an agent. He's like a little dude. Is he? That's an X dude. What was the name of the cat? No, he wasn't in TNA. X is the little dudes, right? That was their cruiserweight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just to give you a heads up, if you look in the chat, we've already had the answer done.
No, I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to cheat the chat. Chat. Okay.
The answer, Sanjay Dutt.
Who is Sanjay Dutt?
All right. We'll tell you what we're going to do, gentlemen. Since we've run through all of our WrestleMania birthdays, we're going to change this category in midstream, and we're going to go with April birthdays. That way we know we should be able to take care of it. And I know you guys can answer that. We're changing the category as we go. We have creative control on this. Here we go. Next question. This professional wrestler was born in the month of April. Many people know this individual for being married to a professional wrestler and being the daughter of the dirtiest player in the game. Name her.
Charlotte Flair.
That is correct.
Okay,
We now have a tie. We are at 1-on-1. And Gabe, just to let you know, no, we need to have a definitive winner. That's what the game show challenge is all about. All right, gentlemen, it's time for the third and final fall.
Hey, the first ones were super hard though, so this is like now we're okay. Not Sanjay Dutt.
Here is our last question. This individual is a former WCW world champion.
Okay.
He spent time in the WWE. He is a WWE Hall of Famer.
Sting.
No.
Ric Flair.
He hails from the Jersey Shore.
Hails from the Jersey Shore.
He was known in the eyes of many for saving the lives of Jake Roberts and Scott Hall.
DDP? Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, after consulting the audio, your winner of tonight's Wrestle Talk podcast game show challenge by a matter of seconds, the one, the only Fred Slow! Fred Slow with the victory.
Bang.
And now, of course, as we look at what's here it is.
Oh, there it is. That's what I finally deserved.
You got about 3 seconds. No. We can't do that. We got to make this right. Now.
What's that, Mike Tyson's Punch Out? What is that? I don't even know what that is.
And just to give you a heads up, as we look here in the comments, our broadcast colleague makes a comment of what's here. Hold on, I got to find this here. He said earlier, just let Haas get the win. No, that's not the case. We have a winner right here, and the winner of tonight's contest is Fred Slow, regardless of what Gabe says, saying that Hardcore Haas was robbed. Again, we got lots of congratulations here, including Herb Simmons. We've got Gabe Rodriguez. We also have, of course, right here, Final Fantasy Fred. We're going to alliterate some more here on the program. Right here on the program. Now, Fred, real quick, for those that want to follow you, whether it's on your radio broadcast or your podcast with things like Going Over or DCCW or anything they want to follow with Fred Slow.
Great question. Everything at Talk ABQ. So if you look up Talk ABQ, wherever you look it up, that's the talk show 2 Men On. So thank you for being a supporter of that. That it's daily sports talk and sports adjacent alongside like culture and lifestyle stuff. It's a lot of fun. We laugh every day. We're so very fortunate. And then Duke City Championship Wrestling. We're everywhere. DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com. All your social media outlets. It's not just cookie cutter posters and replays of matches. We have interactive podcasts that we do every week. We do a real show, which recaps the episode of the program that you just saw the week before, which is a lot of fun. We host a terrestrial radio show here in town called Going Over, myself and Saleh Taylor, who's my co-host on broadcast. That thing is really fun too. Last week, we talked specifically about how it's okay to be a week behind pro wrestling fan. It doesn't have to consume your life. You can skip and go on vacation for 1 week. We promise. But everything is at Duke City Championship Wrestling or at 2 Men On. And if you do become a part of it, don't just lurk. Let us know you're there. Say hi, say hello, like, share, comment. All those things are so very valuable to us, not just in the algorithm, but they're so very valuable to us interpersonally. They mean a lot.
Well, you know something, Fred? I got 2 more things real quick. Yep. Hardcore Hoss, I'm going to have you chime in here for a minute. Do you have any final thoughts tonight before we let Fred go? I got 2 more quick questions. They are real quick.
Just, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to sit and chat with you, and hopefully we'll get to do this again soon.
No, absolutely. And you guys know I'm from St. Louis. I make my way out there. I know, Hoss, you're not there in the second or whatever, but the idea is we come out and I know you talk about all promotions. We've had some conversations with Glory Pro, so we're going to see what's going on with them as well. And obviously, we're really furthering our relationship with NWA. So wherever they ask us to be a part of it, we're going to be a part of it. So hopefully the East Coast is a destination at some point.
Well, you know something right now, Fred? I said before, 2 quick questions. Number 1, now that you are officially in the Albuquerque area, green chilies or red chilies?
Oh, great question. I go with neither. I can't handle it. I will. You give me one or both, or you give me. The locals call it Christmas when you go red and green at the same time. But it'll shut me down. It'll put me in the restroom for the rest of the night. I don't have the fortitude, boys.
All right, and one last one, and this is something you've done for years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask. I think it's been your sign off for years.
Yeah.
I got to hear it one time. As a good friend of yours,
yeah.
a long-time friend of yours, can you give us the saying? That's Fred Slow staple. Can you give it to us here on the podcast? Can you give us the Fred Slow statement?
That's so funny you just said that. I got you right here. For Luke Roberts, for Hardcore Hoss, for everyone at the Wrestle Talk podcast, I'm Fred Slow. Good job, everyone. GG.
All right, you heard it right here. Fred Slow. Thank you, Fred, for coming on the program again. Duke City Championship Wrestling. Follow them. Website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Follow them. It's just that simple. And again, for those that are going to be in the greater Albuquerque area this Thursday night, El Rey Theater, make it a point to purchase your tickets, dccwtickets.com.
Yep.
Also, for those that are going to be having an opportunity here, if you're going to be in the greater St. Pete area this Friday night, our only Gabriel Arsene is going to be live at MLW's War Chamber down in St. Florida. It's going to be a great time, and who knows, we're going to see a lot more people here throughout the country, whether it's in the West Coast, the East Coast, somewhere in between. One thing we always want you to do is make it a point to check out the Wrestle Talk podcast. Let your friends, your family, let everybody know the Wrestle Talk podcast here each and every Tuesday night. Once again, for Fred Slow, I'm Luke Roberts. This is Hardcore Hoss. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday night, right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. See you next week.